Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, hello. Welcome back. We have a pretty exciting podcast this week. We always do, but in reality, we're going to go to a different depth in this one. I sort of said, hey, Talia, there's something on my mind. I want to have a discussion. I really want it to be a discussion where I want her to ask some questions, but I want to give couples hope in a different way. And so what we're talking about this week is it's called Breaking Bro Code. Why do good men cheat? And I want to break it down. Now, in no way is anything that I'm talking about here a permission slip for cheating. That's not what we're talking about here. But I want to just show you the signs of men in distress before they get to that point. It is not your responsibility to save your significant other from themselves, but I hope that maybe this can just empower that intuition of yours when you can feel that there's a drift happening, when you can feel that your significant other is becoming overwhelmed or burnt out. I want to encourage you to be able to be proactive in this instead of sort of just watching a car crash.
Okay, so do you think we should start with defining cheating and infidelity?
Yeah, I mean, I know right off the bat, most of my dudes are going to be like, what? Like, here's the deal. Cheating
Adam,
is cheating.
stop.
Yeah, damn, bro. You like breaking bro code here. So, cheating covers all of these aspects. Emotionally, physically, financially. Now, some people don't understand the emotional side. If you are DMing girls, if you are having text message conversations, if you're FaceTiming someone who's not your significant other, and it's not like you just checking up on a work colleague or so, like some
or
sort
saying,
of
hey, happy graduation.
exactly.
Like,
if you're
one message does not make a cheater. Yeah.
correct, and you need to also like, I'm sorry, men or women, whoever is going to do the cheating, if you find yourself sort of pining after connection for this person,
Yeah.
like you can't wait to talk to them or you want to know how their weekend was,
Mm-hmm.
there is this side that you need to start paying attention of, like, is this really a check-in with a friend, or am I getting an emotional gratification from this? You know, am I seeking to be loved outside of my relationship?
Yeah, and what is the motive? I did this was back when like the app Clubhouse was trending a few years ago, and I remember being invited onto one with like a kind of a round table with other people about cheating and infidelity, and so I typed, I have it, I'm going to read it, like what I wrote for that round table, because it's, I think, a good framework to work from, and that also doesn't let people like either on or off the hook. It's like, if you come at it from this foundation, there's no escape route of like, well, this technically was, fuck your technicalities. Like, as somebody who's been cheated on, no, like the amount of mental gymnastics I've heard people go to, or even in sessions where I've worked on that, because a few episodes ago we talked about the what we couldn't stand in people, like, immediately, and like there is a difference of, I'll just get into it. So infidelity is any action or state of being unfaithful emotionally and or physically to a spouse or other sexual or romantic partner that causes a rupture in trust and respect. What constitutes infidelity ought to be defined by each partner and each partnership, with no assumptions or expectations that the other person should just know what is or isn't infidelity present. What you think is innocent flirting could be defined as cheating by a partner. Technology has compounded the issue of infidelity with access to social media, dating apps, pornography, and other forms of communication that create too much access to temptation or perceived alternatives. Even the threat of this can create jealousy and insecurity in relationships. So that is like the foundation that I work from with infidelity, that even if you were receiving the behavior, would be able to be okay with it or justify it, you cannot speak on behalf of your partner if you do something that causes them to not respect you, or that you are not respecting them in doing that behavior, and there's a rupture of trust. That is stepping out of the relationship.
Yep.
There's financial infidelity, there's sexual infidelity, there's emotional infidelity. There are different kinds of
Hmm.
it. If I'm spending money or sharing money with somebody, whether it's an affair partner or not, and you don't know about it, financial infidelity is one of the things I've worked on with a lot of couples. Imagine, yes, finding a secret mistress is awful. Imagine finding a secret bank account, or that your partner has changed your names on documents and you don't actually own the home you thought you owned. Like, that duplicitous behavior
Hmm.
also falls under infidelity. So I
Or
think for
that
this episode,
the financial needs of the household aren't getting taken care of, why this
yeah,
individual has a
yeah,
very financially costly hobby,
hmm,
right? Like,
hmm,
I mean, this
yeah,
stuff happens, especially when we start looking at like credit card debt and
yep,
just overall financial liabilities. So
yeah,
when I cast that net of like what is cheating, it's a pretty
hmm,
wide net. I
yeah.
don't just take the like, because there does seem to be in the last like 4 decades a shift of like, well, if it's not physical, it's not cheating.
Well, we didn't
Where
actually have full on intercourse, so it's not like,
I love that stuff. We didn't have full on sex. Oh, okay. Well, what's unfull on sex?
well,
Like
yeah,
this
what's full
is
off? Like,
yeah,
what's
yeah.
half full?
Like I
That's
want to.
gross.
This
Yeah,
is well, that's a deeper comment. Anyways,
yeah, yeah.
so navigating away from that, but yeah, this
You
is
have
the
to
whole
be
takeaway.
real about it. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yes. Obviously, sleeping with somebody, having sexual intercourse with somebody else who is not your romantic partner when they do not know about it is cheating. No duh. There are many different kinds, and people push that edge leading up to that. Usually, you don't just, I mean, hopefully, that'd be cool if you're after that, but like, you don't usually walk up to somebody and be like, hello, I would like to have sexual intercourse with you. And it happens right then and there. There are actions that you take and engage in prior to that occurring.
Correct.
Any range of those also fall under cheating or infidelity.
So let's get into the beginning of this process.
Yeah.
So there is a saying that once a cheater, always a cheater.
Ooh. What do you think about that?
What I want to break away from that is I think it's a lazy statement that is 95% true. What I mean by
Mm,
that is that like it rolls off the tongue really well, but
sure.
in reality, what we should be saying is regardless of the relationship, you're going to bring your maladaptive coping skills with you.
I
So,
think that is a much more encompassing description, and also honors that if your maladaptive coping skills have been worked through and processed and you don't bring it with you, it's not necessarily, quote unquote, always true. I
yeah.
have worked with couples where they cheated once with their like middle school or high school boyfriend, and I, or girlfriend.
Yeah.
I laugh because I'm like, think about how many things you have since then. And I'm not diminishing it for you listening. Like,
Mhm.
sorry if this offends you, but like, not sorry at the same time, because
Yeah.
it's middle school. Like, your frontal lobe wasn't developed. Of course, you're going to be more likely to do that. However, if you had that experience and you learned
Mhm.
from it, right, and you were like, I never want to have somebody feel that way again,
Mm,
then no, the phrase of once a cheater, always a cheater would not apply. It's the ones who, once the first sting of morality has been felt, that doesn't stop the person from continuing the
yep.
behavior, whether it's with that for the original partner or future partners. That's when the phrase
Mm,
once a cheater, always a cheater, I'm going to bring my maladaptive coping skills in because I haven't learned from it. If you've cheated on
yeah.
every partner you've been with, there are some deep concerns that you should be addressing in your own therapy. If you aren't in therapy, you need to get in therapy, because that is a deep concern.
Well, and there's certain strategies that you continue to use over and over and over to get you
Yeah.
that place, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why, like, when we go into the addictions field, something that comes out of this is love bombing, which is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of individuals that are in this perpetual state of cheating on their significant other. It's rooted in that whole like instant gratification of the chase, and then they don't really know how to push past into the vulnerability of staying present, of
Mm-hmm.
like what does a relationship look like as a relationship actually develops, right? Where there's more of that conquering process, or the like let me woo you, right? And
Yep.
it's what's interesting is that when they cheat on that significant other, like you said, it's not a statement about the significant other as much as it is a self-fulfilling prophecy
Mm-hmm.
of this person never allowing themselves to get into a relationship where they can actually experience safety and security. Because that safety and security is a foreign thought process, along with it being something that's extremely scary. What happens if I actually say this is important in life instead of me saying there's plenty of fish in the sea?
Mm-hmm. And I think cheating if we're looking at it existentially, it is
Mm,
one of the highest forms of self-sabotage and intimacy avoidance.
yeah.
Ironically, because you're, like if you look at it, it's like, let's say it's emotional and physical cheating
Mm-hmm.
for the purposes of this example. I have my partner who I'm with, but I'm also cheating and I'm getting the emotional and physical, maybe not
Mm-hmm.
100%. And I'm sure the person who's being cheated on feels that. Usually
Yeah.
there's warning signs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I know that's something you touched on in the beginning, no pun intended. And then you have this other person who's also getting at least partial, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
attention of the emotional and physical needs. I've bifurcated, or
Mm-hmm.
depending on how many people, trifurcated, whatever, like I have split in however many people I'm cheating
Mm-hmm.
on direction, the amount of love, affection, emotional bandwidth, what have you,
Mm-hmm.
that all of them at a certain level, or both of them, depending on how many, are going to get a watered down version. And that's the point. Like the point of that is for the person who is doing the cheating and the duplicitous
Mm-hmm.
behavior to lead a double life, to not have to fully commit, to not have to go all in, to not have to address their own insecurities and
Mm-hmm.
intimacy fears, and to try to get their needs met by multiple people. But again, it's in a duplicitous way. I don't think that any one relationship should or can be all fulfilling. That's why we have friends,
Mm-hmm.
a job, a dog, a kids, or whatever. Like there's other
Absolutely.
types of fulfillment. However, in a romantic relationship, the delineation of that, if you're in a monogamous relationship, is there are certain things we are agreeing to that we are solely for each other
Mm,
responsible for meeting these specific subset of
absolutely.
needs, emotional needs in terms of emotional intimacy. Yes, could that be met by a friend in
Mm,
terms of like, I had a rough day at work, I really want to talk to my girlfriend about this. It doesn't mean I couldn't go to my partner. Like that is different than I'm
mm,
now giving to another person what my partner should be getting or has asked for or is asking for. They
yeah.
feel it, they bring it up to me, and then I feel, that's always the best line, I'm nothing I ever do is good enough. It's such a bullshit defense. Like if you think that that is the response that the person wants to hear to why you cheated was, well, I could never meet your standards, you wanted too much, you want, go find less, then like go be with the person that you
I
cheated
just
with if
like
that's the case.
this is gonna be a little brutal, but we have to do this is it drives me nuts as well. Well, there's nothing I could ever do, so I just decided to screw someone else.
So that's
I'm
oh
sorry.
yes,
Well, like,
yes.
okay. Or like, you just never make me feel like I'm like worthy, so I stuck my
Mm-hmm.
penis in someone else.
Yeah,
Like
I
finish
had to
the
cope
sentence,
somehow.
please.
I had to
Like
cope somehow.
like it just it's always hysterical when we sit there and we hear, and this really comes from a position of rationalization, like to rationalize and
Yep.
justify that somehow me stepping outside of the relationship isn't my fault because my partner was too mean or too demanding, when mean and demanding means, right, and I mean this in healthy context, mean and
Yes.
demanding could actually be concerned
Holding you accountable,
and engaging.
maybe be an adult, expecting you to
So,
be a grown adult.
well, you're always nagging me. Okay, well, let's walk through the nagging. Like, was there concern on you're working too much? I can like
Mm-hmm.
this isn't sustainable. You're drinking 4 or 5 beers a night. You're
Yeah.
exhausted. I'm seeing you abuse your body. Because guess what? Your significant other is also not fatalized in this position of they have to become an accomplice in the crime against you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of times what will happen is because our significant other will actually stand up and say, I'm concerned, we then go, oh, well, then you're the problem.
I'm going to avoid this because I don't want to
Mhm.
truly confront what is a concern. And if one partner has a
Mm,
concern in the relationship, as long as everyone's like healthily, psychologically
for sure.
minded, not having, psychosis or
Yeah.
what have you, like, then hear them out. It doesn't mean you have to agree or validate
Mm,
every part of it. It's I as a partner am coming to you with an experience that I am
mm,
having of you or of the relationship. I perceive disconnection. I perceive that you're not fully here. And we can sense it. Like
mhm,
I think the longer you've been in a relationship, the better a read that you might have of the
mm,
person. That's what you were kind of alluding
yep.
to in the beginning, is like, what are some of those warning signs of being emotionally unattuned or checked out?
Mm,
And it's chicken or the egg. Was
yeah.
I feeling checked out? So I decided, well, I may as well cheat as a form of self sabotage. So when
Mm,
you really find out that I cheated after I emotionally checked out, you'll do the dirty work and end the relationship and I get off scot free.
I get the
Or, yeah,
excuse, right? They left
yeah,
me.
they left me. Woe is me.
Mm,
Please baby me because I need a mommy, basically. You go from one woman to the other wanting the love. And this is understandable in the lens of psychoanalytic theory
mm,
that women men want, basically, in many ways, the woman they're with to be like a mother to them. It doesn't mean sometimes every trait of motherhood, but they want the unconditional love, they want the maternal nurturing, the ultimate forgiveness. They're there, it'll be okay, or what have you. Even if you didn't have a critical mother, but especially when you had a
mhm,
critical mother, you want that nurturing, you want that warmth and that
mm,
unconditional tolerance. Well, guess what? In non-familial adult romantic love, there is not unconditional tolerance. There will be
mm,
consequences to your actions. And even if the person, out of the goodness of their heart or the desire to be loved or be forgiving or
yeah,
what have you, gives you a second chance, and
mm,
you know as the cheater that it's not a one-time thing and you're going to continue to do it, and this is, like you said, these are my coping skills, this is just, a leopard never changes his spots, leave. To be
mhm,
honest, that is not worth you wounding that other person. And what a lot of people who don't have a lot of self awareness don't realize is when you do that, you set that person's template and
mhm,
tone for this is what I can expect in future relationships. And they will take trust issues with them. They will take
mm,
insecurities that you have caused, what have you. But because
absolutely.
the person who lacks self awareness really doesn't care about how the other person felt, otherwise, they probably wouldn't have cheated in the first place.
Mm,
They don't ever learn that lesson. So you
right.
have all these people in society who have been wounded by the people who have
Mm,
cheated on them, who just want love and are probably more loyal than
yeah.
most. And then you have the people that are like, whatever, it was a relationship. Who cares if we were married and had a kid and we're together 5 years and
Mm,
had a dog and that, like, who cares? Or who cares if we've been married 20 years? Who cares if I had a secret family on the other side of town? The level of split that the person has
mhm.
to go to justify that is sociopathic. There's literally no
Oh,
empathy there.
absolutely. I mean, so all you Harry Potter fans might like my metaphor in this. I think that cheating and having multiple relationships is something along the lines of like a Horcrux.
Yep.
That they
Yep.
talk about Tom Riddle splitting himself in this book, who's basically the main villain of the whole thing. But it's this idea of you do something that inevitably you can't leave behind. It comes
Yep.
into existence. And it's these cheating aspects of a relationship where then I don't have to feel so alone. If I have four options on the table, or let's go back to a basic. Let's just say
Yeah.
two options, right? Committed relationship, this other relationship that has bubbled up somehow. All of a sudden, I'm insulated from all the discomfort I feel in my primary relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm gonna be stereotypical here. When she's being a bitch, or when she's
Mm-hmm.
being mean,
Controlling.
or
Mhm.
controlling, or whatever it is,
Right.
I have someone to run to.
Yep.
It's natural triangulation is basically what
Mhm.
it is. The sadness is the fact that this other individual who's been roped into it doesn't see that they're essentially being emotionally prostituted for the goals of the cheater.
Or sometimes they do, and they're just as
Well, yeah,
immoral as the cheater, and they don't care.
yeah, it plays into their
And then, "Oh, I'm
maladaptive coping
special, like,
skills.
this person's in a
Mhm,
relationship, and it's delusional, it's the Disneyfication. Well,
mhm.
they're choosing me, like, wow, they're making special time for me." It's like, you both can go have each other. If that's if that's the level of mental gymnastics you're using to justify it, go be with each other because that's disgusting.
Well, yeah, because as the committed significant other, there's a part of you that's like, well, I don't want this role. I never wanted to be adversarial. I never wanted to be the thing holding you back. And so you've elected me into this position that I
Yep.
actually never had a say in. Like, I,
I
I,
didn't
I don't
consent
want
to
to be
this.
the bitchy wife. I don't want to be the overbearing husband. I don't want to be these
Yeah.
things that you're now making it out to. Oh, well, they just don't trust me. Well, how about you finish the sentence? What have you done that would
Why
allow
not?
them to trust you?
Mhm.
Like, just because someone calls you on your bullshit doesn't mean that that person is adversarial.
No, it's the interpretation of the person. So that's my favorite thing when I work with couples, and they're like, "Well, it's usually the wife to the husband speaking about the
Mm,
wife. I shall say, she's so controlling. Is she controlling, or do you feel controlled because she's asking you to be a grown up and be responsible and adhere to timelines and
mm,
follow through on your word for certain tasks? Is she a nag, or is it really the fact that she's had to
mm,
ask you so many times and you've just done the yes, whatever to push her away, and it's like the Charlie Brown womp womp womp. You don't even know what you're saying yes to. You verbally made an agreement to her, so she's really just following up on an agreement, not nagging
Mm,
you, but because your brain went, what's I never agreed to that. Were you not even listening? And sometimes the answer is yes. So is she a controlling nag, or are you somebody who doesn't have good active listening skills and is an immature child feigning as an adult in a
mm.
relationship? Maybe.
Or maybe you've actually pushed her into uh, the
The
role
mother
you've
role. See, this
wanted
is
her
it
to
always
play.
comes
It's the
back to men.
well. So here's what we have to. Oh, this will take us. We're gonna get some feedback on this. So the moms who say my little boy is my king or my prince, like the problem is,
Therapy.
yeah, therapy for sure. But the issue is we're just sort of as a society waking
Mm-hmm.
up to the thought process of the devouring mother
Yes.
of the mom who essentially got a built-in
Yep.
unconditional love bot in
Mm-hmm.
the way of a child, and that child then is used for their own instant gratification, identity, intrinsic value.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening is that you get this young boy that then develops into a young man and then eventually a man child
Mm-hmm.
based off of the fact that we're pretty much told from a young age that, well, we're not responsible for anything. We can act and behave however we want. Mommy's always going to take care of it. Now, what's crazy is we project that image then
Onto
onto
yep.
our next romantic interest,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're under the thought process of I essentially don't have any culpability in anything that I do. I don't have to experience the consequences of any of my
I'm
actions.
mommy's special angel. Of course not.
Exactly. Like I am the best thing on this planet. You
Yeah, my
should love
mom
me.
said so.
And
Yeah.
how does that normally come out? It comes out before you get to know this. It comes out, it looks like extreme amounts of confidence. And so this is why it's also attractive in the dating phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in that honeymoon process, a lot of times in relationships, we're willing to move past the bullshit because we're stuck in the how we feel, the
Mm-hmm. Yep.
fireworks, we're getting to play together in new ways, and we haven't really gone through the thick of life, right? It hasn't come down to who's going to pay the rent, how do we keep the lights on, did you buy milk, stuff
Yep.
like those, where it's those small gestures of what are you going to do when there's a level of inconvenience in meeting my needs. Because like it's really easy to take, I'll just call it out, breaking bro code again, it's really easy to take a chick out and go drop $200 on her on a
Mm-hmm.
dinner, totally woo her off her feet, make her feel like the princess she wants to be. I feel like an absolute baller.
Mm-hmm.
But that was easy. What do you do when you don't have the money? What happens when you're not going to Nobu for fucking sushi? What
Mm-hmm.
happens when you guys are thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner and
Mm-hmm.
it's like whatever's in the freezer?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is that maladaptive coping skill kicks in, which is okay, the fire's out of this one. Instead of investing my time and effort
Or being vulnerable.
or being vulnerable, admitting that, hey, this is uncomfortable for me, or I've never been here before.
I'm gonna go cheat. Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self-worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating. It's about understanding the core beliefs that drive your relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewire your relationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
And so what's the next escape? Right? What's the next
Yeah.
escape? Which is this is also an inherent problem with social media, but it
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't take that much effort to jump into a completely disrespectful relationship
Mm-hmm.
with just a few DM transfers back and forth.
Mm-hmm. And they don't know I've heard it all. They don't know me in the same way that I'm speaking as like the guy who's cheating. They don't know me in the same way that you know me. They're not critical, they're not judgmental,
Mm,
they're so go with the flow. They have all this time for me, they send me sexy pictures, that whatever the reasoning is. Sure. And honestly, once that, if let's say you leave, let's say you cheat on
mhm.
somebody, they break up with you, it's rare that the guy actually does the breaking up. That's the indirect way of them asking to be
Yep.
broken up with, so they don't actually have to do the hard work because it's lazy. Cheating is a lazy act to get out of a relationship, especially, but also at the same time, the mental gymnastics to keep it ongoing. It's a very interesting kind of phenomena. So they leave, you're not with that person anymore that you cheated with. Let's say you actually do start to date or hook up with the person that you were doing the cheating with, not the cheating on. I'm a believer, if they'll do it with you, they'll
Mm,
do it to you. It's only a matter of time before, like you said, the reality of life kicks in. They do something that reminds you of your mom or your ex-girlfriend who
yep.
you've projected to be almost the same person. Then now they're nagging and controlling and whatever. You're never the problem as the cheater. It's
Mm,
everybody else who's always the problem. Well, why couldn't you just love me for me? Because I'm not excusing your poor behavior, and you need
yeah.
to act like a grown up and be held accountable in a relationship. So really what you're doing is just cheating and leaving to go find somebody who doesn't know all your lies and lack of accountability and is still in that honeymoon phase of it's sexy and it's fun. That goes away for everyone. Cheating or not cheating, relationship or
Mm,
what, that facade leaves eventually. And if that's what you're holding on to hope for, or you check out emotionally when it's not all about you anymore, and you decide to then cheat to make it all about you again, meanwhile
mm,
withhold, this is the part that always has upset me about cheating or lying in relationships, whether that's friendships or otherwise. If you are knowingly, consciously withholding information, especially when asked point blank,
mm,
that your partner or friend wants to know, and you are knowingly, consciously withholding it, and you know if they knew that information they would make a different decision, or a
mm,
differently informed or more well informed decision, and you choose to hold it close to your chest because you don't want to lose out on something, you are honestly the worst kind of person. That is
mm,
disgusting behavior that should not be tolerated. And if you are the person listening to this, you're, oh, fuck, I do that. I'm not trying to shame you into changing directly. However, you do need to take a look at yourself and go, am I that insecure, or do I have that low of
mm,
self-esteem or those poor conversation skills that I don't know how to just be honest and tell the
yeah.
truth? And as women, I will let you know as a PSA, if you're listening to this bro code episode, we will likely be much less upset that you told us the truth. We might not like what the truth is,
Mm,
but we will be more appreciative that you were honest, because then our brain goes, that sucked, but they were honest. And I want somebody who has integrity and in terms of words
yeah.
matching actions by definition, and honesty. I want that in a partner. And
Mm,
I may not forgive you for it, but I won't leave thinking you're a grade A asshole because you were actually honest, and I didn't have to go play detective and discover
mm,
that. And if somebody else can get you that easily, I don't want you. If you withhold the information and I have to discover it, and then upon
yeah.
confrontation you still gaslight, or upon confrontation you try to play the victim, again, that
Mm,
sets the tone for like not being a mature adult, not being able to take accountability,
yep.
which ironically is why probably it happened in the first place. Don't withhold information from somebody
Mm,
where you know if they knew the truth, they would make a different decision. That is incredibly messed up, especially when it comes to sexual infidelity. You are putting, and I've seen it on Reddit too, like, oh, my husband cheated on me when I'm pregnant, clearly does not think the baby can
mm,
have harm or whatever, the mom gets an STD, what have, they don't care. They're so self-interested, they're willing to put someone else's life and health at risk for whatever their own gratification is. That to me is scummy.
it is scummy. There's also the other aspect in this. Again, it's not a permission slip, but I think we have to realize this because so many times people come into a session with me, whether it's individual or it's couples, and they go, I don't understand why my significant other would cheat. And the thing that I start off right off the bat is, first of all, you're trying to make logic out of an emotional situation.
Yep.
So, like, no, by design, it was never supposed to make sense. Like,
Hmm.
the level of energy and engagement and mental load that's required in carrying on this parallel relationship is a tenth of what would be needed to make the relationship you have incredible. But the challenge, though, would be that I'd have to be vulnerable. I'd have to admit that there's areas that I let my spouse down or significant other. There's things that I could change. There's work and introspection there. And so, again, what are you willing to do? We always pay out of convenience. So like I remember in Southern California when I lived there, of course I had a toll roads account, right? And I would pay a stupid amount of money to ride the toll roads. Why? Convenience.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
this is that aspect of like, well, why did this person didn't do it to you because there's some inherent failure in you. They did it to
Mm-mm.
themselves because they
Mm-hmm.
chose convenience over
And you were
integrity.
collateral damage.
Yes, and you are the collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want people to sit in the thought process of like, well, let me logically find a reason. There is not logic there. But then even when I sit down with the offending significant other, what I always love, well, I don't have the emotional capacity, or she wants too much of me, and it's like, so you can emotionally be present with two people, but you can't be present with one person really
The
well.
math ain't mathin'.
The math ain't mathin'. And so it's again, it's one of those situations where it's not based in reality. It's more of uh, in all reality, I don't want this. Well, then say it out loud, because like
No.
I'll never forget. I had a friend come to me once and laid it all out. He fucked up his relationship. It was, I mean, but then the justification started. Oh, she was this, and it's so hard, and I wasn't married, and I didn't have kids at this time, but he was, oh, you don't understand kids, and you don't, and I remember just being in a spot of like, but dude, you chose this. Like, dude, at least I've never experienced it when someone's come into a room, put a gun to my head, and then blew my mind. Like, no
Mm-hmm.
one's raping you under
Mm.
duress, right? So you made all these decisions to have a physical, intimate relationship with someone. Just own it. Like, if you don't want to be in the relationship, then we need to have that conversation. Where I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of spouses get stuck in that position of like watching a train wreck, watching a car
Mm-hmm.
accident, is we, out of having probably unconditional positive regard for our other half, are like, well, I'll give them another chance, I'll give her
Mm-hmm.
another chance, I'll give them all these different
Mm-hmm.
opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
When they don't need opportunities, they need to be posed with the right questions. Do you want to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to, this is what it would look like to be here? Do you want this relationship? Because I know that it's going to be extremely vulnerable for us to ask that, to even put it out there, because we don't
Mm-hmm.
want our heart broken of like, well, no, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be here. But
Mm-hmm.
our heart is going to break more when you decide to take on 3/4 of the relationship or 7/8 of the
Mm-hmm.
relationship
Mm-hmm.
and try to fill in all the cracks in which your significant other has created an absence. And when in reality, they're then going to turn around and say, see how controlling you are.
Mm-hmm. I
Like,
think that's the one of the problems though is you ask when you ask a liar to be honest, you're not going to get the truth. So if you ask the partner who has cheated, do you even want to be here? At least from my experience, even when the cheating was not known about, when it was just like being the emotionally checked out, like maybe,
mm,
in retrospect, warning sign, no, I'm all in, I'm this, I'm that. You're not going to get honesty from somebody who's a liar and who can keep up an affair for however long, or who can keep up cheating of whatever nature. So that's the part, is like, it's not really, for my, this is my probably more
yeah.
contrarian, but like, it's not about asking the person who cheated, do you want to be here? They gave you their answer. The answer is no, they do not want to be there, or they do in an entitled way. They want to have an entire cake and then have the ability to eat another entire cake. This, I'm leaving the fucking bakery. So if you ask yourself, do I even want to be here after this, knowing full well if it is historical or if this ever happened again, and the again has just already happened, do you even want to be there and subjugate yourself to being in a relationship that is now going to 100% have trust issues, need repair? There's going to be all these problems
Hmm.
where you are going to have problems no matter who you're in a relationship with, but pick the problems. Okay, could you please put the toilet seat down? It really bothers me when you forget, is much different than, could you please stop putting your penis inside of other people? Like, I feel like you're going to get further with one request than the other. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, so I do want to jump in there because I understand and I appreciate you're like, this could be the contrarian in me. I don't think that you're wrong. I think that we undermine the fact that we get communication in nonverbal ways.
Yeah.
What I'm telling the spouse that has experienced cheating is what I really want them to move into is you have to ask the question so that then you can hold yourself accountable to whatever their actions are. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
ask, hey, do you want to be in this relationship? Oh yeah, I can't, I'd love to. And then the actions don't match up, you got your answer.
Yes,
That's
that I agree with.
that's that's
That I
what we're
agree with.
looking for.
Yeah.
I I think why I'm good at what I do is I actually set I draw a line in the sand. And I say, it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't piss me off that if in couple session you lie to me and your significant other's face. If you come in and you're not genuine and you just are here to be performative, I'm
Mhm.
all for it. Why? Because we can find you out.
Mhm.
So
The truth
right
always
now,
comes out.
both of you have competing narratives. I said I'm
Mhm.
not here to be judge and jury, but what we are going to find out is it's going to be actions and behaviors
Mhm.
more than it's going to be words. And
Mhm.
so if one of you is making yourself more available, is trying to have physical time together, the other one always has a rational excuse on why they can't be home, they can't make it happen, they can't do the homework. I'm not gonna take that inaction as action or inaction. I'm gonna take it as a decision.
Mhm.
Like you're actually using strategic inaction.
Mhm.
Well, I just don't do the thing because then I still get my secondary gain met, which is I don't have to be vulnerable. I don't have
Yep.
to do the introspection.
No
And
true
so this is
intimacy.
why again I'm saying no one out there right now, you're not a witness to the train accident. You
Mhm.
actually get to have a say in it.
Mhm.
And I will fall back on this one, which is behaviors and actions are the most honest forms of communication possible. Because there are
Truly.
plenty of times, especially in my relationship, and I am not perfect at all. Do not hear that. I've never wanted that moniker. But there are times in this relationship where I can see it with my wife and I can see it with me that sometimes we do not have words to say to each other because we're angry, we're frustrated,
Sure.
we're exhausted, whatever it is, but our actions will still show love. I may
Mhm.
be like pissed
Yes.
about certain things, and guess what? I'm doing the dishes. Well,
Mhm.
she doesn't deserve it based off of what she did. It's not about that.
It's not about that.
It's about the fact that you know what? I know she's had a long day. I know she is worthy of having 25 minutes to her freaking self. I can
Mhm.
do the dishes.
Because you see the long-term overall of the relationship from what you've shared, obviously, if that's not evident
Mm-hmm.
to listeners, like you are very committed, and both of you have the loyalty and the long-term view and the potential, I'm going to go out on a limb here, conflicts that you're having are more of the could you please put the toilet
Mm-hmm.
seat lid down, not the other type of conflict. Whereas
True.
other couples who are struggling with like, can you just treat me with basic respect and meet bare minimum human
Mm-hmm.
standards in a relationship? Those are the couples that I think struggle differently if infidelity comes into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really look at was it a shock if you discover the infidelity because it is so unlike the person. I've worked with couples before where it was like very deep psychoanalytic. The dad
Mm-hmm.
came into the picture after so many years, but had cheated on
Mm-hmm.
the mom, but the guy ended up cheating because he wanted to feel close to the dad. Like there was such this meta analysis reason of why, and it was so out of the ordinary for the
Yeah.
person that those are like the exceptions to the rule where couples can
Mm-hmm.
repair. And it is not a once a cheater, always a
Yeah.
cheater. It's like, I am deeply regretful and sorrowful that I chose to handle
Mm-hmm.
my it felt sense of inadequacy, my low self-esteem, my stress
Mm-hmm.
from work in this way. I ruptured our trust. I understand if you never want to get back with me, but I don't want you to leave this thinking I don't care or thinking I
Right.
have no empathy for the damage that I've caused. For that, I will be
Mm-hmm.
forever apologetic and I will make it my life's mission to like that is a totally different level of an apology and ownership and action, like you're saying, behaviors and actions,
Mm-hmm.
honesty, than like, yeah, it sucked, yeah, it sucked. Like it wasn't failing a test. So, well, yeah, it was like a bummer, but that's again the warning sign of if the person's already emotionally checked out before the infidelity occurs, then when the infidelity is discovered, usually not disclosed because they've checked out, so why would they care? When it's discovered, the response that the offended partner gets is so counter to what they should be getting. That's part of the mind
Mm-hmm.
fuck too, is like, do you even care about what you did? And then they'll use the excuse, well, you always said that I wasn't emotional or I had no empathy or I never met you feelings wise. So you can
Yeah.
only be told that so much before you use it as a cop out. Like no, that if
Mm-hmm.
you're the offending partner and you've ruptured that person, whether you are a whether you care or not in terms of your intrinsic, you should
Mm,
start to look inward and see, could you have empathy and see it from even their perspective? Like, imagine being the partner where you didn't know that was happening, you didn't feel checked out, you were all in, you were committed, you're doing the loyalty thing, you're like, you know what, even if they had a tough day, I'm doing the dishes. You, as a cheater, if it's a chronic cheating thing, you don't deserve to be with a partner who is that loyal and
mm,
that faithful and loving. And that's often the sad case of events, that it's the person who is so loyal and faithful and loving that gives the second chance. Don't. Honestly, unless the person is remorseful, as I just said
mm,
a little bit ago, that is not worth it. If they are more in the like, yeah, whatever camp, that's sociopathic and unempathetic, that is the warning sign. Were there other moments in the relationship where they were also kind of
yeah.
sociopathic or unempathetic, unattuned to you, misattuned, what
Mm,
have you? Then it's not to say, oh, I should have seen it coming. It's that is a characterological pattern that person
mhm,
has displayed. If they struggle to emote, if they struggle to be empathetic, if they struggle to have that
yep.
close intimacy, that is usually more indicative of somebody who is going to, for various
Mm,
ways, check out of the relationship. Gambling, cheating, working more, not
yeah.
being, it's not just about, like we talked about, the physical cheating. That's possible, but it's, I'm not fully all into you, so why would I care? The person who didn't care that they did the cheating and hurt
Mm,
you is not going to care and make an apology afterwards, because they really didn't care about you, and they don't care that they drag you down and your collateral damage and them destroying their own lives potentially. But then they're usually not honest about why the relationship ends, to their family, their job, their friends, what have you. Oh yeah, we just broke up, and they sweep it under the rug. Or the next person they date, oh, it just didn't work out because she was so controlling. Yeah, me asking you to not sleep with other people, call me controlling. There it is.
oh,
You're right,
she just
I'm
never
so
wanted me to
controlling.
have any fun.
There's this scene in Wanderlust
I
where
think it
the wife
is.
and husband are going, I've showed it to you, where he's like,
I love you and I have sex with other women because I love you so much. I'm getting it out of my system. I'm trying to protect you.
Are you kidding me?
What do you want me to do? Do you want me to tell you every time I sleep with somebody? And then what? Then we have to deal with that every time? What is wrong with you?
what is this? No, like, there's no justification for that, because it's true, that's the mental justifications that
Babe, why are you making it
they
all
jump
about
to.
yourself?
Yes, why
Why are you,
I didn't why are you making my cheating about you? It's like, what? Yeah, it's a great scene. It's a classic,
and
it truly is.
shockingly realistic for
Yeah.
some therapists when we have sat in things,
Yep.
right?
And if you come in and you're remorseful, I wanted to be clear, because I kind of broke frame and I was more just Talia today, not like a clinician. As a clinician, if you come in and you're remorseful and you're coming to couples counseling because you want
Hmm.
to work on repair, I have all the respect in the world. And I have seen couples reequilibrate, rebalance the power dynamic,
Oh,
have
absolutely.
different rules of engagement. Like, you can repair past
Hmm.
infidelity if both of you are willing to have
Mm,
the tough, vulnerable conversations. The betrayer is willing to be, and actually
yeah.
genuinely remorseful, empathetic, understanding, willing to put in the work to rebuild the trust, which is
Mm,
much more difficult than building the trust.
yeah.
Building the trust takes just you two building it. Rebuilding it is now being reminded of what used to be, what isn't any longer, and what
Mm,
maybe could be moving forward, if you're both willing to put in the work. That I have respect
mm,
for. It's the people who go to couples counseling, who don't disclose that they're having an affair, who do disclose it and say that they're going to end it but don't. The ones who say they're never going to end it. You
yeah.
can't be half in. It's the ones that use it as like
Mm,
a weapon, or as like,
for
oh, I'm
sure.
showing up just to say that I did.
Well,
That's not
they want it to look
honest.
good during the divorce mediation. That's what,
Exactly.
or they're doing the bare minimum to have a socially acceptable excuse.
Hmm.
Like,
Well,
I'm
we
going to call
tried.
it
We
out.
just couldn't
Most
work past it because I couldn't stop cheating.
as a clinician, I will say most of the couples that come to me for betrayal work is
Hmm.
50-50.
Yeah.
Like, you either have really like, okay, this is a wake up call.
I
We
need
both
help. I don't know how to
recognize
do
what's
this on
going
my own.
on. We want to have a reunification.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
the other ones, they're only here because of their parents. They're only here because the cheating father or cheating husband didn't want to tell his parents that he didn't go to therapy, or the mom that cheated, or the wife that cheated, or the
Hmm.
significant other that cheated. She doesn't want to be the one that's like, oh yeah, I froze him out. So
Hmm.
it's interesting that they'll come in and then they'll really want my position to be, oh, well, give us the authority to divorce or separate or go our own ways. Like, you guys have that on your own power. I'm not going to play that game.
No.
because I'm not going to be the name in the story that you said we saw Adam and Adam
Yeah.
told us we weren't compatible anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You are as compatible and incompatible as you wish to make yourselves.
Mm-hmm. And what they've demonstrated before they've already walked into the office, if you're coming in because you want it to look better or like say that you tried, please
Mm-hmm.
don't waste your partner's time. And this is, you're not wasting my time because we might not know that from the jump. But there are times where I've worked with couples and I'm like, you're being duplicitous. And I'll call it out because I have shared this before, but I was considering law enforcement prior to being a
Yeah.
therapist, and everyone I've told that to, they're like, oh, you would have been so... I'm like, I know, I have the personality for it, thank you, I've been a great detective and investigator. Anyway, that also comes out in my therapy room because I'm not always the warm, non-judgmental, loving, blah, blah, blah. I will call you on your shit, and if I feel like you're lying or I have proof that you're lying,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll get messages in between sessions sometimes from couples where they're like, I found more messages of the affair, and I walk in and I'm like, okay, bro, what the... Did you really think we weren't going to talk about it? Like, the truth always comes out, and I will take that stance and I will have empathy for it. Must be really hard for you to not be able to end this behavior, but it's making it very clear
Mm,
that we cannot continue to have couples therapy
yeah.
because you have your partner who you really don't care about. And you're showing me that and telling me
Mm,
that directly and indirectly, sitting here, showing up, willing to do the work. You don't deserve them.
mm,
And then I will share with the partner who's being betrayed, if this doesn't end, is this the relationship you want to be in for the rest of your life, where you're crying on a therapist's couch, understandably upset, understandably shaken up,
mm,
begging for somebody to treat you with basic respect?
yeah.
Like, I won't say break up, but I will ask them very painful and unearthing questions
Yeah.
until they reach whatever decision they make. And you know what? I'm sure some couples who I've seen that they maybe don't continue after that, that they do go, yeah, I do want to be in that relationship, because they can't break out of the subconscious psychological
Mm,
pattern, or they finally will have their worth if they change the cheater to be monogamous. Like, it's too much. There's so many warning signs that a person can cheat, and it's usually, sometimes I would say it's split. It's not until it's too late that you notice them, or you try to justify or paint the red flags white along the way, when really the best approach in a relationship for discovering who a person really is to let them be themselves and not try to cast them or paint them in a different light unless they are truly
absolutely.
displaying that behavior. Oh, well, he cheated on this, but I justify it because of this. Well, I'm going to be different. No, you're
Mm,
not. You are not special. And he, if you stick around, is going to show you exactly how not special you are.
yeah, you're never going to be able to stay a shiny enough object to keep a person from their own distractions. Like
Yeah. If
that's,
they're not willing to do the work, like the caveat, if they're
mm,
not willing to do the deep work it takes to correct that very maladaptive and hurtful and betraying behavior, this is all under the guise of that. If you're listening to this and you're like, I messed up, I never want to feel this way again, I genuinely
mm,
want help, this doesn't apply to you. Like,
yeah.
the negative comments or what have you, at least that I've said today, doesn't apply to you because you don't fall under the category of somebody who's
Mm,
callous about it. If you're callous about it and you don't care how it affects other people, good riddance. Like,
yeah.
you're going to go around hurting other people in your life with no remorse. That is, again, part of the definition
Mm,
of being a sociopath. And that you
ooh,
can't, that's a personality disorder, or those traits, right? Like, you can have narcissistic traits without the full-blown
mm-hmm,
disorder. If you have more sociopathic traits, truly lacking empathy, truly
mm,
lacking like theory of mind, ability to put yourself in another person's shoes, insight oriented therapy isn't a good match for you. You actually won't be able
mm,
to make progress because it's the like the
yeah.
exact thing that you're wanting to avoid is what we require of you. You won't make progress.
Mm,
So that's my 2 cents. I feel so good. I got a lot out today.
I, I think we gave them the whole 99 cent
Yeah.
personally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so this is what we
Yeah.
need from you guys. Did this resonate with you?
Yes.
Did you
What would
like
you
this
add?
conversation?
Yeah.
Did you think it was just rants? What was it for you? I think that we did a good job at trying to articulate what we wanted to do at the beginning
Yeah.
of our session.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Let us
We're
know.
willing to continue to go through this conversation. I hope that you're encouraged. If
Yeah.
anything, if you're navigating something like this, I understand that there's an overwhelming sense of pressure and existential dread and a lot of things. But what I want to encourage you in is that you don't have to be a participant in a car accident.
Get out.
Like, you're not a passenger.
No.
So you have actionability, you
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to speak a voice. It's going to require you taking some risk,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe you also were listening to us and were like, man, I've already made those moments where I've asked if that person has wanted to stay. I've asked them to show initiative. If they haven't met you there, what you're really conditioning them into is the fact that they get to have emotional tantrums and you aren't going to do shit about it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
instead of having a intimate relationship with a toddler, why don't you go find someone who actually wants to play at your level?
Yeah, go find an eye to eye relationship or have one with yourself. And if you are more attached, my final thought is if you have been cheated on and you're struggling with the decision, like, do I stay or do I go?
Mm,
Is being in a relationship or a pseudo relationship with somebody who has, to your face and behind your back, ruptured your trust, put disrespect on your name, put you at risk or your health at risk, is being attached to someone like that
mm-hmm,
better than being alone? Would you really
mm,
describe that as love? If you're looking for adult romantic love that you would want to model to your children, if your child came to you and said, "Hey mom," or "Hey dad, this
mm,
the person I'm dating is treating me like that," and your heart literally lives outside of you and have a kid,
mm,
and that isn't enough for you to like that should be enough for you to feel motivated to be like, I would rather be alone than be treated like garbage or like an option and not
oh,
be respected.
absolutely.
And that's the ultimatum I think people end up having to reach, unfortunately, sometimes through learning hard lessons. It's worthwhile even if you are alone in terms of not partnered. Sometimes that feels much less lonely than the loneliness you
Mm,
feel when you're in a relationship and feel alone. Trust me, it sucks. So do the hard work, get an individual therapist. You are worth it. You are worthwhile enough to be in a relationship where somebody doesn't treat you like an option and cheat on you.
boom.
Mic drop. So thank you. Also, if you liked this episode or had questions, like Adam was saying, let us know in the comments, send us a DM, just keep us posted. And we'll see you soon.
Next time.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.